Philadelphia 76ers hadn't had a GM for a long time. They drafted without a GM. Brent Brown seemed to be making most of the personnel decisions. Well, they've announced who their GM is. They interviewed a lot of experienced people that had, previously been GMs. They decided to go with Elton Brand. Elton Brand, who was on the roster just a couple years ago as a player, was recently general manager of their G League team. He has now officially been announced as their general manager. What does that tell you about where they are as a program right now?
I think it's a really good hire. I'm happy for Elton. I'm also happy for Malik Rose, who got hired to Detroit's front office. Brent Berry, who got hired to the San Antonio Spurs front office. It's just an evolution for me. Grant Hill, who's in ownership with the Atlanta Hawks, to see players that I played against and or we're around the same age go on to be things other than players and continue to working in the game. He was a knowledgeable player. He was a productive player. He's been a part of the Sixers, as you alluded to, for the last couple of years. I think he has a pulse on the team. That's really what you want. You want somebody that understands how these guys think in front of the cameras and how they think off wax.
What it tells me is like they had the Colangelo thing, and Colangelo was sort of like implanted. You know what I mean? He was like from the outside and came in and sort of messed with the chemistry that they had in their front office. Not only does the locker room have chemistry, front office have chemistry too. That this tells me they're like, we like what's happening here. Like, let's not bring somebody in that could have different philosophies or butt heads with someone that's here. Let's keep this the way it's going. And here's a question for you. You mentioned these players that are now working in front offices. As a player yourself, they tried to get LeBron last year. There's a lot of free agents next offseason. Does a former player help them in their chances of securing a player? Like, is a player more comfortable if a former player is in the front office versus like an executive?
Of course it does. And there are going to be people that argue with this point, and then they're going to shut up after I say this. When a player goes on a college visit, who's their host?
Player.
For that exact same reason. There are going to be things that we could talk about and relate to that the coach is not going to be able to relate to, administrators not going to be able to relate to.
I've seen you interact with other former NBA players. It's way different than when you interact with our colleagues here at ESPN.
Correct.
It's like you guys just have this kind of brotherhood that even if you've never met the person before, like y'all give each other pounds and speak to each other in a way that you don't speak to other people.
And also, you talked about that level of cohesion. If you remember, Jerry Colangelo, who was brought on to be a decision maker and a special advisor to ownership, brought on his son, who, by the way, looks like Nicolas Cage, Brian Colangelo. And we saw what happened with his Twitter fingers and his situation that forced him to be ousted. So if Elton's sitting right there and he's showing you that he has the potential to get it done, you do your due diligence around the league and see if there's somebody else out there you feel like is going to bring more to the table, and then you turn around and decide that he deserves the job. I applaud them for doing so.
Well, Brand's got some work to do, not just with bringing in free agents, but also with the players that are on the roster. Now, there are two players on his roster that are jump shot challenged, okay? Ben Simmons and Markelle Fultz. And Brett Brown is obviously asked about this all the time, and here's what he had to say about Ben Simmons and his jump shot and his summer. He said, this is what he told Tom Moore. He said, quote, "I think the man hours he has put in is impressive. He says he's more confident in his shot. His jump shot is not going to define him." Do you think in one offseason someone can become a jump shooter?
We ran into Ben Simmons this summer. I covered him when he was in college. I'm a huge fan of his game. I said to anybody that would listen on this program while he was injured and while Joel Embiid was injured that they were going to be what for the league when they got healthy?
A problem.
Said it for a year. Okay, it was not even being discussed. He has a huge flaw in his game. I think with work, as Brett Brown mentioned, it can get fixed. But his latter comment made me think of something else. When he talked about having the ability to like take it to that next level with his work ethic, I just want to see how it's going to go dating a Jenner.
It's over now. They broke up. I know you don't keep up with the Jenners the way I do, but that's over now. That's over. She moved on. He moved on.
Okay, so he gonna have a jumper then.
Okay, good.
He gonna be knocking down threes.
Well, that's what he had to say about Ben Simmons. But here's what he had to say.
So he was like, "I need to go to work on my jumper." She like, "We need to go to this Hollywood red carpet." He like, you know what?
Yeah. Red carpet ain't paying me any money. Well, here's what he had to say about Markelle Fultz.
Maybe she broke it off.
And his summer and his workouts. Brown said that Markelle Fultz has put up 150K jump shots working with Drew Hanlon. Says he's been confident in seeking out shots since returning to the Sixers gym. Jalen Rose, do you think this will be the year where Markelle Fultz plays the way we all expected Markelle Fultz to play when he was drafted number 1?
It almost seems like I've become the person that needs to defend the honor of Markelle Fultz. And I don't mind doing it because when they put him in the game at the end of last year, I saw him get a triple-double.
But then
I
they
saw
didn't
him
play in the entire playoffs.
And I was frustrated watching them play against the Celtics when you just took me number 1, you traded me for Tatum. He's out there getting 20, and you giving me DMPs?
In like 5
Like
minutes.
that's almost disrespectful.
And I was just playing it pretty well at the end of the regular season. Do you remember the streak that the Sixers wanted to finish the regular season?
Yeah, they won like 19 in a row or something.
One of the best teams in the league for that stretch. And Markelle Fultz was playing for that stretch. And then when the Celtics series comes around, guess what? He's on the bench.
So I do think he's going to be a productive player, and I'm looking forward to seeing his improved jump shot.
That could go either way for me. I could see him being just a phenomenon, being excellent. I could also see him doing the same thing he did last year. Who knows?